Hello everybody, Dokkan Assets here. Today we are back with another Dokkan animation analysis video, and I'm pretty shocked about this one too. I ain't even gonna lie to you. I think that LR Super BUU was probably the last thing that everybody was expecting for the part 2 for this celebration where the Dokkan Fest unit was Kale. Kind of an odd choice, but honestly, I'm here for it because this card is actually super cool. No pun intended, of course. So let's go ahead and get into it here. Of course, as per usual, we are going to watch the animations one time through first, and then we will go through the frame by frame for these. Couple of things to know as per usual as we go through these in the beginning. For one, I am no animation professional. I just look at a lot of Dokkan animations, and I think I have a pretty good understanding of what makes an animation good. So I always like to take a look at these just for fun. And the other thing that is actually something to note about this one is that for some reason they played this backwards. The animation that you're watching right now is actually the 18 key for this one. Thank you to Goresh, by the way, on Twitter for pointing that out. This is the 12 key super attack. Now, why they did it backwards? Because literally every single time that they do a showcase like this, they always do the 12 key first and then the 18 key. I don't know, and the only reason that we figured that out was because on the actual info for the unit, it says that the 18 key is an AOE, and obviously you saw that the AOE, was there. So, by the way, I gotta say, obviously, unfortunately, because I am doing this one, basically hours after this unit comes out and before we have any kind of comparison to go off of. Of course, we're not going to have that for this video, unfortunately. However, my initial thoughts are that this guy is pretty good. This is a pretty good in terms of the animations. Dare I say a Kale sweep, if I may be so bold. So let's go ahead and go through it here in the slow-mo. First of all, I know everybody and their mother has been waiting for this actual scene to get a animation in Dokkan. I will say that classic gif of BUU looking at the hourglass, it's unfortunately that we don't have that in here, but obviously we do have this very cool shot with BUU's reflection appearing on the glass, right? So it kind of appears like it's a reflection on the glass before it actually fades into just BUU, and the hourglass fades away behind him. That is such a sick transition, bro. So cool. And I gotta say, when you click on it like this with this shot, it literally just looks like it's his reflection in the hourglass. I think that's so cool the way that they did that, and obviously animating it still while it's in the hourglass as well, with his face getting really frustrated. Looks very nice. We then have BUU close his eyes, and it changes to this here. I will say, this is a pretty drastic type of asset change, right? You have these thin lines, this very high quality asset, to open your eyes, BUU, please wake up, smell the coffee, brother, to this. And I mean, obviously this is the exact same pose and facial expression, but it is a little bit jarring going from this to this. You're like, whoa, hello, we are in a different spot here, ladies and gentlemen. It doesn't look too bad though, and obviously as we zoom out, we have BUU stand up, and that looks really great with him lifting his arms up and beginning to scream. This shot looks fantastic. I love the little dust clouds emanating off of BUU, the motion lines kind of accentuating this very nicely, if I do say so myself. This looks fine when we get to here, right? These lines look kind of thin again, and they don't look like as low quality of an asset. This just kind of looks like he's far away. I think probably it's just because they were kind of making these in the same size or aspect ratio as when it kind of gets far away like this. So it makes sense why it kind of looks a little funny. Again, that is definitely nitpicking, as I like to do in these videos, but of course that's kind of the point. So this is really cool. I really like, first of all, with this shot here, right? We have the little thwip little effect there, which is pretty cool, right? To obviously kind of emphasize the motion. You also have BUU's hand get this little bit of motion blur on it, which is really nice. And of course, you can see that the pieces of the hourglass smash, right? And kind of go flying, and BUU's hand actually comes back in, right? You can see that it kind of fades back into existence. You guys know how I feel about the little bit of ghosting effect, but I think this looks fine. it works for the purpose that it is trying to accomplish, and that is pretty cool, right? With all this stuff, you know, kind of going off to the side. I'm pretty sure that this is just how the anime does it, where they cut from this shot to this, but I will say that is a little bit awkward with, like, BUU still in the frame. Let me see if I can go back to that. With BUU still in the frame there, right? And then immediately the next shot is bam, he's standing there in the middle. It's not like too big of a deal, but it is just like a little jar. You're just like, oh, okay, here, we're back here again. So this shot looks good, right? Definitely like the way that this looks for sure. And then we kind of have this zoom in on BUU here, until we finally get to a more dramatic zoom, which is pretty cool. I really like this shading, by the way. I think that this looks really good in terms of being like a similar asset. And I know that this is a pretty big jump here, right? But I think that it looks fine in actual fluid movement, right? Obviously, we're just going to the frame by frame. Of course, everything could always use a couple more frames, I suppose, in between, but I think it looks good when you're actually looking at it in full-time speed. And I think they do a pretty good job of keeping, like, the style, obviously, from this to then having this sort of shadow cast over BUU. I think it's pretty good. It is a little bit jarring seeing him go from this to this, but that's just more so, like, the style of the scene rather than Dokkan doing that. But this is pretty good. He literally said, yeah, I'm him. But this is good. I really, really like the movement on BUU here overall, right? Especially when he points towards himself. That looks really, really nice for sure. Definitely like the way that that looks. Okay, so now we go to the 18-key super attack. Holy cow, the artifacting in the background. Dokkan, an old game, bro. So we have this nice shot of BUU getting a little smile and, of course, lifting up his hand. That fluid movement, oh, baby. Let me see that again. Look at that, dude. Oh, just the right amount of frames. Perfect. That's what I'm saying, bro. There's so many Dokkan animations that I know for a fact that other lesser animations would have literally just had him go from this to then, you know, have the pose go to here and then go to here, or they would have had like 3 ghosting effects in between. This is all I'm asking for, bro. This is what I'm looking for. This is good stuff. We then have a little bit of a white flash to the ball of ki forming in BUU's hand. And I gotta say, they nailed it with the effects here, right? Obviously having this shot starting after the flash of white. It's cool, too, that they actually have, like, the sky get darker, right, as the ki blast begins to form in his hand. It actually does get a little bit bigger every time, even with the small ones. And, of course, you can also see the lighting change every time there is some sort of, like, change on the screen, whether it be on BUU's hand or, you know, obviously it's, you know, from all these different ki blast effects changing. But everything looks good here. It looks like a pretty natural progression of the ki blast. You can also see the beginnings of when he fires the blast up into the air to destroy all of humanity. Right, looks pretty cool. We obviously have the blast form. I love these little lines here, right? You can see the little dashes around the ki blast. Very classic Dragon Ball Z style, very Dragon Ball Z-esque. I love it, bro. It's so nice when they don't cut corners and just make this like a pink ball, and they add these little things, because these are the little touches that makes these animations so much better, right? Also, the aura around BUU's hand looks very, very nice. Looks really good, if I do say so myself. A flash to the card art. By the way, this card art is really, really good. You should check out, if you go on JP and you can hold the card in like the Awakening tab to see the animated art. It looks really, really nice. But yeah, so then we go back to the effect firing off. I will say, this is probably one part of the animation that I will kind of critique a little bit. I know it's probably just because it's how the scene is, right? But it is kind of unfortunate that for this, they basically just use, like, a PNG of BUU, and you could just kind of, like, tell that it's a PNG of BUU. As well, the background is kind of boring, and again, I know for a fact that it's because it's, like, the scene where they have these, like, motion lines, but I don't know. This kind of feels like an old Dokkan Super Attack. Like, this section right here, but maybe this, to be fair, though, this does kind of tell you how far Dokkan Super Attacks have come, because this section right here where like BUU is, you know, like standing in place shooting this off, kind of reminds me of like an old World Tournament unit where they would have like some of the more smaller sprites firing off like the generic attacks. Then they have like one scene that's like really, really high quality, and this would be that one scene, right? Like if this was the animation from a couple years ago and then they just kind of had the beams come down, it would be crazy high quality. But it's funny how, you know, now obviously we don't look at that in as high regard, even though it would have been like the peak, you know, many, many years ago. But it just kind of goes to show you how far Dokkan essays have come. If, you know, stuff that would have been good is now bad. That sounds really weird, but I think you understand the point that I'm trying to make. I will say, regarding this scene, though, what I do really like about this is not only do they have the aura around BUU actually shifting, right? The shape obviously changes. You can actually see the light is brighter up towards BUU's hand and darker towards him, right? With obviously the little blast kind of giving occasional little blasts of light as well to really emphasize like BUU, you know, obviously shooting off the multiple lasers, right? Or the multiple ki blasts. Very, very nice attention to detail, and definitely makes this feel a lot more animated and a lot more live. Definitely really, really like that. Definitely really cool detail. So then we obviously get to the beams flying towards this guy. These look really, really good. Dokkan is pretty good about their ki blasts, right? I think this entire section, right, I literally don't think I have a problem with this at all. It looks great. You know, smoke effects look good. All the beams coming down very chaotically look good. The rocks kind of flying away look really good, right? Obviously, with the initial shot of the beams actually coming down from the sky, right? I kind of like the almost like firework-esque look of it, because obviously it's sort of like above human eye, you know, I guess above like where the naked eye would be able to see, in terms of like how exactly these beams are kind of coming down towards the sky. It looks like if there was a bunch of stuff blowing up in the sky, right? Which is great, right? I think it looks fantastic for sure. But yeah, obviously this is the AoE. Again, why they played the 18 key first, I'm not sure. But nonetheless, definitely pretty cool. I will say, regarding this guy, and this is basically just the same animation over and over again, I do think that the 12 key looks better than the 18 key, which we are going to get to in a minute. However, I do think that definitely it was the right choice to make the superhuman extermination pew 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 attack, right? Where obviously BUU shoots off all the ki blasts and destroys all the humans on Earth. I think it was definitely the right decision to make that the 18 key, because like in terms of oomph, I guess, and like the scene choice, right? Like, you know, impact on the story and just obviously like the range, the impact of the attack sort of thing. I think you understand what I'm trying to get at, right? Obviously, this seems like the type of thing that would be 18 key super attack worthy. You know, like this should definitely be the 18 key super attack and not like flipping the 12 key like what the actual attack is to be the 18 key, even though I still think the 12 key looks better in my opinion, right? Which we'll get to right now. But I think they definitely made a good choice with that. That's the point I'm trying to make there. But yeah, BUU obviously looking down. That asset transition is a little bit wonky though. Hold on, let's go back to that. So we have this very nice BUU asset here, right? Looks very high quality. He's zooming out a little bit. Where is it? His leg looks kind of funny there. Oh! Yeah, that could definitely use a little bit of work. To be fair, I don't know how else Dokkan would do this sort of thing. Like, they've kind of had this in a ton of animations that I've seen, where they have, like, this nice high quality, and then when they need to go back to, like, a farther away asset, right, you can literally see the point where the animation just transitions, or the asset, rather, transitions like that. But I don't really know how else they would do it, you know, so I guess it's fine. Nonetheless, though, we obviously have BUU actually get ready to curl up into a ball, and I will say, once we actually get to this part here, right, where BUU comes out of this funny pose, right, this also looks very goofy, and he goes basically into ball mode, right, he does the spin dash from Sonic. I think that this looks very fluid, right? Definitely the part where he like completely whips his legs over, I guess could definitely use like 1 or 2 more frames, but I mean, I think in full motion, again, this is the type of thing that, of course, because we're looking at this with the frame by frame, we don't have the advantage of that. But I think, you know, we'll give it to you in the full motion here. In the full motion, right? That looks great in the way that he kind of wraps himself up like that, right? Looks fantastic. Definitely they did a very, very good job with that. Okay. So now we have fly down towards the surface. Here's the thing about this, right? I will say, I understand for this next entire sequence, right, and this part too, It is cool that they do have like the motion lines kind of moving in the background. And obviously you can see that BUU is kind of clutching his clothes a little bit, right? You can see that those are kind of fluttering in the wind. I do kind of wish that they would have had his antenna flutter in the wind a little bit. But maybe it's just like he's using his, muscles to hold it still or something like that. But nonetheless, like this shot here, right? I like this shot a lot. The rocks look fantastic, by the way. And this shot, too, of the lookout being destroyed looks great. They definitely nailed that. The only thing that I will say that is kind of unfortunate about this whole sequence is I think everything around this sequence looks great. But for this whole section here, right? Obviously not talking about that next part. It is basically just like a PNG of BUU being slid around the screen. And, like, I understand that that's because that's just what happens in the scene, right? Like, I'm pretty sure that that's basically how it looks in the anime. Maybe it has a little bit of more animation to it. But it definitely does just look a little bit like... I mean, I think the attack itself just looks silly. I mean, BUU is kind of a silly villain, but... I don't know. You guys know how I feel about the static PNGs. I feel like they could have just done something a little bit more with it to make the ball of BUU. That's a really weird sentence. Just kind of more interesting, I guess, and just a little bit less like PNG slidey. But I think all the smoke effects and whatnot, all the like breaking rocks and everything. Let me go back. Here we go. For everything else here, right, looks fantastic. I think BUU himself, despite it being funny, right, like, it definitely is very silly. I think it's just, like, in my mind, they could have done something to just make it look a little bit better. But again, I'm sure it's just, like, that's how it goes in the anime. Anyway, this scene, I will say, is really, really cool. Because this is the type of thing, like, in anime, right? Let me show you this in full motion because I think it's important for the context. Funny enough, this is one of those scenes that I've actually, people in the comments when I've done these videos have complained that I've critiqued this sort of thing before. So that's good because I'm taking notes on comments when it comes to these videos and always trying to improve my analysis of this sort of thing. I think it was the Jackie Chun video, funny enough. Someone was talking about how like Jackie Chun moves in slow motion, and I was talking about how I didn't like that, but that's just how it was in the anime. So this is the same type of thing here, where BUU is kind of like not moving in slow motion, but obviously this is supposed to not be like they're cutting corners and, like making this fade between all the smoke effects and whatnot like this, right? And all the debris and stuff. This is how it looks in the anime, right? Obviously it's supposed to be like kind of like cartoony, right? Like, it's a sort of Looney Tunes things when two characters are like wrestling and you have all the dust in between it, and sometimes it like fades in between, so on and so forth. Sort of an effect like that. And I think it looks great, honestly. This is a very nice looking shot. Like this shot right here, obviously there are shots from Dokkan that literally look like they're from the anime, but I think this is going to be an underrated scene. This looks super nice, in my opinion. Like, to my eyes, this looks great. You can see BUU, right? You can see the path that he's following, the little pink blob, right? Obviously, the motion lines for this look really, really great as well, right? Fantastic shot, in my opinion. I really, really like it. Very good. And, hey, hopefully, with this type of stuff, I can notice this more in animations going forward. And obviously, kind of keep in mind that this is just something from the anime, rather, more of like a stylistic choice rather than them, cutting corners and me not really liking it as much. But I think it looks fantastic. With BUU flying forward here, though, I'm sorry, it's just hard not to laugh at it. This is obviously just like a PNG of BUU, but I think this one works fine, obviously, like crashing down, almost like a POV, right? Like, basically, like you're about to get hit by BUU. This, again, basically the same thing here. I think everything around this looks fine. It's just that BUU himself looks a little bit silly. With him actually crashing into Gotenks. And I think that it also doesn't help, right, when it comes to the sprites, right? Obviously, stinky sprites, we can never really do anything about that. But when it comes to attacks like this, right, obviously the sprite is in front of BUU. Let me go back to that exact frame. There we go, right? The sprite is obviously in front of BUU. And of course, it could just be like he's hitting Gotenks' back. But obviously the way that Gotenks is in position to BUU, it doesn't really make sense in the way that he's falling and then hits the, rocks, the rubble. But I think that that's unfortunately just kind of a Dokkan sprite thing that's just kind of something that you gotta understand when it comes to these animations is gonna be there. And I think that if it wasn't as much of the case like that, right, especially even here in this beginning part where he's bouncing around and hitting Gotenks, right, it kind of is like that too, where the sprite's positioning sort of does make it a little bit awkward in my opinion. Maybe not as much with that shot, but when Buu comes back around again, definitely like just kind of looks a little awkward, right, with him just kind of sitting there. But again, that's something that maybe if they ever improve the sprites in the future, I don't even know how they would at this point because they're so ingrained into the way that the animations work for the game. But only time will tell if they decide to update that. But yeah, 12 key looks good, and whoo-wee! They popped off. This was clearly the part that they focused on the most for the active skills. So of course we have Buu chatting it up in the beginning here. This looks great, how intense Buu looks here. Obviously the fangs look fantastic. Lip facts look fine. The lip flaps here, obviously too, you know, being very accentuated, which makes sense because of course Buu's giant mouth. This looks great though. I love this beginning sequence with him kind of shouting, right? And obviously you have the motion lines. Then the zoom in. Ooh, the zoom in to the face change, dude. Holy. This is really, really cool. Obviously, Buu opening his eyes super wide. I think it definitely does a very good job of capturing the scene with, like... Sorry, I'm tripping over my words here. I'm getting, you know, distracted by the beauty of Buu. With how, you know, crazy, like, Buu can kind of animate himself. And I don't mean, like, animation in terms of, like, literal animation. I mean, like, you know, how well you can emote, basically. You know, hit him with the gritty and whatnot. How well you can emote your face, right? It kind of makes sense that, of course, Buu as a character like this would look like this. And I think they just do a great job in Dokkan of sort of accentuating that. This shot also looks pretty good too. I like the little dust clouds around. The aura looks fantastic here, if I do say so myself. Definitely a highlight, and I think that it's animated very, very well. Again, super Dragon Ball Z-esque, which is really cool with like the white highlights there, with like the pink kind of being the outline sort of. And then this shot is really cool with this almost like tornado-like effect and the lightning. Clouds moving up top, right? Whoo! The scene, bro. Look at this, dude. Holy, it looks so good, bro. They nailed it. They absolutely nailed the way that this looks. My gosh, ladies and gentlemen. That is so cool looking. I love the aura effect. I love the way that it almost looks like these little shreds of aura are going up around Buu, right? Obviously, the expression that Buu has looks great. Buu himself looks fantastic, right? Of course, all those crazy veins that Buu has on him in this scene, excuse me, looks great. This shot too, even with obviously kind of giving a little perspective where the enemy is, looks pretty good. Again, it is kind of the far away asset, so it's like, eh. But I think that the aura looks great there. Oh, hold on, buddy. Hold on. We're not ready to talk about you yet. The aura looks good. Obviously, you can still see those almost like little shred effects in the aura there, right? Not as heavily, but of course, you know, it's far away, so it makes sense. Electricity, right? Looks very, very nice. And then, of course, the money shot, baby. The money shot. Ooh! Dude, they killed it with this shot, bro. Oh my gosh, hold on. Buu jump scare. This shot, dude, they nailed it with Buu tilting his head, the electricity effects, the lightning and the aura combination, right? Obviously, the pink look of everything, the way that Buu himself looks here. Oh, man, this looks so good, dude. Holy. This looks really, really nice. I love the way that they did this one. Looks great. And obviously Buu's eyes also changing look fantastic too. The crazed look on his face is perfect. And I really like this transition as well, by the way. I feel like this definitely could have been a transition where they just cut between shots, but no, instead they have this really cool zoom in and then it fades to Buu standing there. Oh, that's a nice impact frame. I didn't even mean to pause there. But yeah, very, very cool transition. I really, really like that. Again, this is something that I would love. I don't know if that's like the anime does it like that, so that's why Dokkan decided to do that, or if that's more of a Dokkan original thing. But by golly, do that more, because that's way cooler than just cutting from one scene to another, especially when the cut is kind of like abrasive and takes you out of the moment. That is such a nice transition. Buu standing there looks great, and of course the explosion right there. Looks really good too. I gotta go back right here, right? The way that they always do such a good job when a character is like enveloped in key like this, right? They always do. So first of all, the impact frame again. Oh, baby. Looks so nice with the way that they have this. It is literally just a PNG, and they kind of color it different shades of pink, you know, and white in this case. But obviously the way that BUU looks as he's kind of getting enveloped by the energy here looks great. Definitely very, very nice. And of course, the explosion itself also looks really good too. This kind of enveloping Gohan. At first, it kind of just looks okay with the ball, but I like the way that it almost kind of looks like it's pushing against him. And obviously, you have the kind of beams to sort of accentuate that. It is kind of funny, I will say, that it does basically go from, right, like, let's go to, yeah, right there. Oh, I didn't even mean to get it. I had it, like, framed perfect there. It's, like, right next to him and then, bop, right on top of him. Let's take a look at that in full motion. How does that actually look? Yeah, it still looks a little funny. It still looks a little funny in the full speed, if I do say so myself. It's not too bad, but it definitely does look a little silly. But anyway, Gohan getting enveloped by the key does look really, really good. Obviously, the rocks there too. You can actually see they have a little fade effect on Gohan getting Thanos snapped there into the blast. And the final effect there looks good of the rocks, right, and all of the dust kind of smoking until we have all of the parts of BUU reform up at the top. And that looks great. The way that they animated BUU reforming there, actually taking shape, right, and then going back into his normal form, looks really, really good. And then obviously you have this final shot of BUU there, which I guess this would technically be the KO screen. I didn't even really think about that, but yeah, that would end up being the KO screen if you KO'd with the active. And that is the end of BUU's animations. By golly, these are pretty good. I think overall consensus, right, for me, they could definitely be better, right? There are easily areas that they could improve on, and this definitely seems like a LR that maybe could have come out like a year or two ago for sure in terms of the animations on certain elements of them. But I think overall these look really, really nice, and I think that they do the scenes justice for BUU. I think especially with that active skill, dude, holy, they popped off with obviously that very iconic scene of very crazed BUU. Honestly, I kind of forgotten that that wasn't really represented in Dokkan because, you know, whenever I think about like this specific scene with BUU with him like destroying all the humans, I always kind of think of the World Tournament unit, so I always kind of forget, oh, hey, we don't really have anything for this scene. So very, very cool, I will say. I think they definitely did a very good job with it. I'm still confused as to why this came out after Kale. I love it when BUU joined Universe 6 of the Tournament of Power. They fought together. I don't know. Kind of unfortunate that Kale doesn't have the support that she was really looking for. But I definitely think that they did a good job with BUU. Very, very cool unit. I will be curious to see if people will be summoning for this guy for sure. Definitely going to be looking forward to getting him in my box for sure. Definitely let me know what you think of his animations in the comment section below. Personally, I'm a fan. I think that this guy's animations are pretty cool. I hate to say it, bro, but BUU Sweep, Kale's animations ain't nothing compared to my pink boy right here. You love to see it. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Of course, don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and I will catch you in the next one. Dokkan Assets out. Peace.